Appeals. It is Thursday, August 15th. Or what? Okay. We were a little short a couple board members, unfortunately, because two people are on vacation, but we have a quorum here tonight with Mr. Tibbetts and Mr. Lynch and myself. So, Nicole, can you call the first application?
The first one I'm going to move to the front, only because they requested a continuance.
Okay.
And that one was continued from our July 18th meeting, and it's J. Stephen Bajorklin, trustee of 15 Capital Daniel Litchfield Lane, requests a finding pursuant to MGL Chapter 48, Section 6, and floodplain special permit pursuant to Section 470.9 of the Scituate zoning bylaw or any other relief the board finds necessary to allow the reconstruction of a pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwelling that will meet all setback requirements on a pre-existing non-conforming lot located at 141 Fernwood.
Would you mind closing the doors? Thanks. Yeah.
Per the applicant's request, I would move to continue that meeting till the next scheduled meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals on September 19th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Our second application this evening is Liebman Real Estate Services, LLC of Needham, Mass. Requests MGL Chapter 48, Section 6 special permit finding to expand non-conforming single-family dwelling by more than 20% in a floodplain special permit under Section 476F to substantially reduce the dwelling located at 2 Lighthouse Road.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Michael Liebman, and Liebman Real Estate Services, and I'm here representing 2 Lighthouse Nominee Trust. And the 2 of the trustees are here tonight as well, Selena and Lindsay Fink. I'm here to, regarding a pre-existing non-conforming property located in the higher density R3 zone, and it's within the floodplain watershed protection district as well. There are 2 structures on the property, one 2-story colonial style dwelling at the rear of the site and a 2-story cottage style dwelling on the front of the site. My clients desire to demolish the cottage and renovate and construct an addition onto the existing colonial.
Are these the, your plans?
This is the site. This is the site plan, which I believe you already have a.
Right. You know what I'm going to ask you to do? If you could just put that somewhere so.
Is there a better place to do this?
Yeah,
No,
just.
we'll work with the things we had before us, but the audience may want to
Okay.
have some understanding of what we're talking about.
Okay. Well, so I've brought some pictures
Oh, great.
of the site. I don't know if this is too small for you to see. I can bring them up to you.
No, I can see them.
You can see them?
Yeah, in
Okay.
fact, if you want to stick them there, can you see him if he sticks them there?
Yeah.
You saw, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to need it also because I have the plan on the back.
Okay.
For now, I can put this over here. This is the cottage-style building that is intended to be raised, and that is the 2-story building behind it. That's the front, so left side of the property. This is the front right side of the property. Again, that's that same cottage. This is the 2-story building behind it. And then this is the rear of the property. Again, showing that 2-story corner. This was just an overhead showing the subject property here and showing the houses on either side.
Okay. Could you pass that over to us? Yeah, I don't think we got a copy of that. We got some pictures, I thought.
That's the subject property right there.
Okay.
The house on either side, so that corresponds to located the houses on either side.
So is that so like a parking area right in the front?
Yes.
Okay.
You can help me to understand right off the bat, the, I understand we have 2 structures,
Yes.
basically separated by a deck, which that joins it, just for convenience?
Yes.
At the moment? And you're proposing one continuous structure?
Yes.
So that I'm not understanding where you've got the existing dwelling superimposed here, that's going out.
No, okay, so here is, just to describe, this is the.
You know what, again, it might be.
Maybe if you do it on
Yeah.
there.
Here's the property. Here's the existing building that is going to remain.
All right, so that's going to remain, the front one's going to be raised.
Right, you see this, it says, a little note here, to be raised. So
Right.
this front cottage style building will be removed.
And the existing will remain, you're going
Will
to,
remain, that's going to be
and
renovated.
you're going to attach it to a three-story front.
I'll show you, okay, so here's, again, you want me to put this here? Or?
Yeah,
Well, let's
because,
see it first, and
Yeah.
then you can, then put it there.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, this is the front elevation.
Mhm.
and you're saying front is
Front
facing
is-
facing Lighthouse Road?
Facing, that's correct.
Okay,
This is the rear elevation facing the water, and
okay.
then this is the side elevation. This is the, with the garage in front, so this is the left side elevation.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically, where
Here's the
those,
existing,
Yep.
this is the existing structure, which we're gonna add.
right, where the three sliders stacked are, or French doors, from there forward is a replacement of the existing cottage.
That's correct.
From those back is the existing structure with the cupola added on the third floor. And the roof deck, the second floor decks on the left, which don't exist currently.
Right, but currently a deck exists here, and then there's a cover
Right.
for currently.
So all you're doing is putting a second floor above the existing deck,
That's
raising the
correct.
roof higher.
Okay.
Right, and we're actually shrinking it, because one of the things we're doing is we're maintaining all the setbacks, where this dotted line around the site is the setback lines.
Right.
So all of our new work is within the setback lines.
Okay, and just for, again, you're going to have to turn around and repeat it. Well,
Okay.
first of all, are there people here for this application? No, okay.
No,
But,
that makes it easy.
but having said that, there are people who watch
That's perfectly
on
fine.
TV, so if you could just kind of give a brief overview again for people.
Okay.
And maybe if you stand in front of me, face them, and then, because that camera will pick it up, and everyone will be happy.
Okay, so these are the elevations of the property. This is the front elevation facing Lighthouse. This is the rear elevation facing the ocean, and then this is the side elevation, the left side elevation, where this is the front and this elevation corresponds to the rear. This is the existing two-story colonial building. This is where the cottage is currently, which is going to be taken down.
Right.
I don't know if you want to leave these up, but okay. The other side of this, again, are the specific plans, which I can present.
Well, did you bring a copy for the file?
I did.
Okay, super.
Would you like that now, or?
Yeah, that'd be easier.
Now? Okay. One copy's fine?
If you prefer for me to hold my comments for a minute, I will, but if you want to listen while you're looking, we can do that too. Okay?
Probably.
As I perceive the plan, now that you've explained it to me, effectively, on the plus side, you're going from 2 dwellings on a single lot to 1, which is, you're reducing a nonconformity that exists there.
Yes.
You're going to reduce some of your existing nonconformities, which I think on the easterly side are mostly in the form of decks. This area here, the back, the rear. On the westerly side, you do have the existing dwelling encroaches on the sideline setback significantly, and that will be gone because you're going to take out that building.
Yes.
The existing encroachment of the second dwelling will continue, but again, it's there today, and that nonconformity will continue and the building's not going to be taken down. It's not like you're trying to rebuild there, you're just trying to maintain that structure.
That's correct.
So, I mean, if you were going to take it down completely, you'd probably be asking us to stay within the building allowed area, but you're trying to maintain a structure that's sound and serviceable and can be incorporated into the new dwelling without a problem.
That's correct.
The existing, a portion of where the existing deck is now will be, continue to be covered, and a second floor deck, so you have two decks on the back facing the ocean,
That's correct.
facing the harbor. That's not a change, and it's within the legal setback, so the
We're actually reducing the nonconformity
You're
of the
significantly
cover of the.
existing cover covers that deck completely, so that's
Right.
coming back a
We're
good deal.
reducing that.
So if that's a covered deck, that whole rear?
Not entirely, but
Okay.
it's a significant portion is, and so we're
So that,
reducing the size of that to fall within the setbacks.
so that's helpful to reduce the footprint. You are getting closer to the street on the Lighthouse Road side,
Yes.
Lighthouse and Jericho. Your current setback on the street is 29.4, and you're looking to go to 20.7.
Oh,
And on the curve, your current setback is 18.4, and you're going to go to 8.9. That seemed, where are you getting your setbacks on the
Okay.
roadway?
So on
Because
this-
by average?
On the plan, I had the
Okay.
calculations on the plan.
Okay.
And also identified on the plan the structures within 200 feet.
Understood.
And so we took those setbacks and did the calculation to come up with these.
That one helps.
Yes, well, all of them actually, except for one, three of the four are much closer than we will be.
And for the audience, if there's anyone who is of any interest, the setbacks that are outlined on the plan are setbacks from the roadway layout of Lighthouse Road. It was a public way 30 feet wide, and I don't think it's constructed 30 feet wide, so actually the structures are significantly further from the existing roadway, constructed roadway. Am I correct?
Yes.
So when you say, for example, unit number 8 on the plan, I guess it's 8 Lighthouse Road, has a 0 setback from the roadway layout, the house sits right on the roadway layout, but that porch isn't in the middle of the road.
Right. and
The
this-
road is somewhere up here.
Right.
Yep.
This is just, this is an example of
That's this one.
6, yes.
Yeah. Number 6 is shown in the picture that I'm looking at, although it's only 4.4 feet from the road, it has 3 cars parked side by side in front of it, so they're approximately 12 or 15 feet long. So clearly the road is not as the layout allows, but we have to work with the layout.
So the effective setback is greater
Correct.
than what is shown.
And the allowed setback, it should be 30 feet, or an average of setbacks in the neighborhood, 200 feet either side of the property before an intersecting way. So you've done that calculation, and I'm not going to check your math, so I'm, so that's how you arrived at that close proximity. My last comment is, I could be anxious about that close proximity to the roadway because of the idea of backing out of a garage and onto a roadway. But what's shown on the plan is the roadway layout, and the practical location of the paved surface makes that less of an issue for me.
Right. And additionally, it's an odd-shaped lot in
Yes.
that it turns, so effectively, there's a
You're closer
car's
to-
worth of space before you, there's a car's worth of space before you
Yes,
get off the property.
you're closer to 20 feet for the whole,
Yeah,
except for
exactly.
just the very little corner.
Exactly.
And
So-
and that's if the road was built to the layout.
Exactly. So there is room for the cars there, even and to get out safely even.
Right. I'm not challenging, I'm
No,
I'm clarifying.
Okay, then I appreciate that.
2.6. We do 1, 2, 3, 6. All right, Frank, anything?
Where's the garage?
The garage
Yeah.
is
Oh, it's on the
shown
first
here
floor,
on the plan.
so it's a two-car garage?
Two-car garage. Actually, as
I
it
get
goes
it.
up,
All right.
it comes- steps back. So it's not just a sheer front. After the second level, it steps back about 6.5 feet, just to cut the mass and to
Got it.
create a little outside space. So it's not just a sheer wall in front like this.
Sorry.
This also shows you the existing conditions, how close everything is to the street, and these are the averages on the other side.
I'm
That's
I'm
the
familiar.
question.
These are the cars, but these are the cars in your lot?
Yes.
Yeah, they were like right on the street. And you're going 9 feet further, closer? Well, it's going to be close. All right, so, average 8.9, average 9.6. Well, we took every inch.
Well, we're actually on the other side, on the Jericho Road side, we're actually further back. We wanted to leave enough space for the car, so even though this corner, because it's the odd corner where the site turns, we did use that corner, but by squaring it up, the actual 19.6, we added another foot. You know, we didn't,
They could have come all the way up here to 19.6
Right.
on the square. The other thing is, if you measure straight out from the new construction, you won't be as close as that 8.9, because you'll be going to hypotenuse, so you'd be probably
What did you say?
the hypotenuse of a triangle. This being 8.9, that being 8.9, that would be a right angle, it would be, where's my geometry? I'm not gonna try to do the calculation, and I don't have a scale with me, but it's somewhere probably closer to 12 feet, I'm guessing.
Okay.
I have a scale. It's an architect scale, but
If we come
I can shoot it, yeah.
straight out to there, maybe 10, 12 feet?
Quarter is,
You're on a quarter scale?
this is, sorry, that's 8 scale, so
8.4.
So 16?
7.5 feet. Some of them here were like 11 or 12 feet
Yeah.
from there.
I
So
wish
it's a
Neil
little
was here.
And there's room to.
I don't,
He would have known what that word was.
yeah.
Hypotenuse?
Yeah.
Come on.
You don't learn that in law school.
Let's do Pythagorean theorem, come on.
Okay. Frank?
And so what is the square footage going to be when this is all said and done?
The total square footage.
Yeah.
The existing square footage is about 2,600 square feet. The new square footage will be about 5,000.
Is that both, obviously both buildings, 2,600?
Yes.
And then proposed is 5,000?
Right.
Is that in here somewhere? Did I miss it?
It's not.
Okay. Shouldn't that be in?
Yeah, I think it
application.
should, yeah.
It's actually the same number of, between currently it's a 3 and a 2, so that's 7 people, and this is 6, which is 7 people, so it's not, they have 4 children, so that this is not going to add any additional people to the site.
The challenge is the bylaw is we're increasing the size
Right.
more than 20%.
Yes.
Right,
But in
so-
fact, are we? Because we're actually we're only increasing the size of one, and the other one's disappearing, so we're increasing it like a bajillion%. Another way to look at it. The fun thing about this kind of an application is that there are unusual land uses in our town where we do have two structures on one lot, things like that. And when we have an opportunity to remedy that and bring them closer to conforming, we generally like to do that. And then again, there's the question of being cheek by jowl on Lighthouse Road. And, the building inspector is not here, but we've had this discussion in the past that a structure built closer than 5 feet to the sideline has, by state building code, significantly increased requirements as to fire setback and fire coding and things like that. So this wall would probably, I would expect he will want it to be brought up to code, because it's your,
I don't know if he
This
has to bring the
existing wall?
existing wall.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I
Because
suppose don't be-
you're more than 25%
might
of
have
the,
to.
if you
Yeah.
increase the size of the, if you increase the improvement over a certain percentage, you have to bring the whole
You have to
structure up
bring
to
the,
code.
that's true. That's right, you do.
But that, I just, if that were to be pulled back, but again, you'd have to tear down the structure or cut it in
That's
half, or,
problematic, yes.
so,
Yeah.
The big saw.
Well, we should get something for the file that gives the square footage, so if you could present that. Yeah,
I can
send it,
send it in.
yes,
Yeah.
that would be fine.
That confirms it? I can, sure, certainly.
All right,
I do also have the floor plans if you're interested.
if you could calculate the square foot living space of the existing and the square foot living space of the proposed, and send that into Nicole for the file, that would, because,
Yes, I will.
and we'll incorporate it into our finding.
okay.
We're going to go on the approximate 2,600 existing and approximate 5,000 proposed.
Okay.
Anything else, Ed?
No.
Is, anybody in the audience wish to be heard on this? Yes.
I live on 166 Jericho, Helen Jablonski, and I have both this property that's going to be built. The new addition, is it going to go as far as the cottage there is there now? Or is it going to go further? Or are you going to see the same footprint?
It's going to go further than.
It's going to be further to the street.
Towards, a little further towards the street.
Okay, I'm just concerned, if I drive out of my driveway, and block from here and block from there, and those cars keep coming back and forth. So why aren't you staying in the same footprint as the cottage?
Okay, well, first of all, any comment should be directed to the board here, and then, and then we'll ask him. He has the ability to set it back for the average setback based 200 feet, okay? And so he can actually go further as a matter of
He can go
of
further
right.
towards the
He can,
street.
right. But there's still 20 feet, and, there should still be plenty of visual space
Okay, you
to do
can
that.
assure me that that will happen? I'll have enough-
I'm just telling you that...
What the plan says.
Right, what the plan says.
That's my main concern, is that if the building goes out further to the street, I'll have to have somebody directing me on my yard.
Yeah.
Okay?
Anyone else? Okay.
Well, you can take personal responsibility for that 20 feet, because your property is the only one in the whole street that's 30 feet from the street or more. And that factors into the equation as 30 feet. You're actually, according to this plan, 58.9 feet from the street. You've got the best front yard in the whole street.
Absolutely.
And But that helps to keep that 19, because it becomes an average of the houses
Again, like I said.
on the street.
My problem is getting out of the yard. I have a problem now with the traffic going so. So I hope this is not going to be just a big thing that's going to be sitting right on the roadway.
Yeah, it's not on the roadway. It's 20 feet back.
The existing cottage is about 29 feet back, but then there's the stairs that stick out a little bit further. I think those are roofed, I believe. So this is only going to be about 21 feet back. So it's actually moving forward about 9 feet, but,
Well, we'll see what happens.
but it will still be 20 feet back, and it's within the legal setbacks according to our bylaw, so that's, we could ask them to pull it back a bit, but they could say, well, they really don't want to. And we could say, well, fine, go jump in a lake, and they'd say, fine, we'll take down the existing structure and we'll build the whole space out, and it's a cooperative effort.
The only thing that's gonna be knocked down is the cottage, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the existing main house is gonna remain,
Yes.
and then you're gonna hook up the new addition to the one existing now and just remove the cottage.
Yes, and the cottage is actually, the new structure is going to be further away from the property than the cottage is now.
Need anything specific or special?
Oh,
Yes, I will, yeah. As long as I can get out of my yard.
I don't know, we're gonna take a peek at, I don't know what we have to do for floodplain special permit. For raise and reconstruct, I don't think we do. Yeah, no, I don't think so. It's 470.6.
The other factor that comes into play with this particular property is it is in the floodplain, so we need to just address that part of the bylaw and make sure we're not missing an opportunity here.
Yeah.
We're consistent with the national flood insurance, consistent with flood-resistant construction. The new structure is going to be, the flood elevation there is 11, and the new living floor level is going to remain at 12.6, which is what the rest of the house is.
Okay. And the cottage is not, I would imagine?
The cottage is not.
So we're
improving that situation.
the cottage is currently not in compliance with the floodplain regulations. The existing house, the other house is, and the addition will bring the whole thing into compliance.
The only part, for flood purposes, the only part of the, that will be below the flood is the garage level itself, which will be below, but that's just the garage portion, and that will have engineered flood vents.
And you're not looking for any relief from this board with respect to that?
That's what we're going to do, and we're happy to do it. But in order to get, we don't want to create an undue hazard, steep ramp coming up to the garage, so we wanted to maintain the existing grades as best we could. So therefore, we lowered the garage so that we could have comfortable, not obtrusive manner to play to get into the garage. It also helps keep the overall building height down. We're not maximizing the height per the zoning west of the maximum.
What is the height of the structure?
The height of the structure is 31 plus or minus. We're allowed 35. The total structure height is 34, and we're allowed 40.
I thought, what did I see here? You had 42 plus or minus?
No, 31 plus or minus.
Oh, maximum height.
Again, those grades are established from zero. So when you, the floodplain level, the average grade is approximately 11 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take the surveyed height of the building, subtract the 11, that's the actual height. So the actual height of this building to center point of the roof is going to be approximately 31 feet.
It's a beautiful design. It'll be a nice enhancement for the neighborhood, that's for sure.
Thank you. That's the intent.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Nicole? I'm just kidding. I thought maybe you'd take Neil's spot.
Yeah, no, you don't want.
And your spot at the same time. Okay, do we have a motion?
Is there anyone else in the audience? We're all
Oh, yeah,
set?
no, I mean, I asked it. No other comments from the gallery?
I'll move to find that the proposed family structure is not significantly more detrimental to the neighborhood, and to grant the special permit allowing for its construction under 470.6. Oh, excuse me, under 40 Section 6, and considering the floodplain special permit 47.6.
47.6.
We'll grant the permit under Mass General Laws 40, Section 6.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Well,
Did you included section 470 floodplain in that?
Yes.
Yes.
You did, okay, great. Thank you very much.
And so if you would just get, you gave Nicole a copy of the plans?
I did.
And Peanut Gallery,
I just
speaker?
want to try and assist the applicant. Ed, was your motion also on the 20% ILR as well?
Yes, and I didn't know the section, but to build it,
What was it, 420?
Chapter 40, section
420.2, is it?
The special permit on the non-conforming.
To allow it the increase of more than 20%.
But Scituate has a specific bylaw
Yes.
for improvements of more than 20% of the existing floor. I think it's 420.2. So I would just suggest that the motion should approve that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Or it's 8.
Maybe 820, not 420.
820.2.
I get to look it up.
Oh, man.
820.
no,
Nope.
wrong.
Wrong.
At the top of the page,
You-
840.
840. There's no 840. Mike, you're not doing well. Let's let it shine. You do so good.
810.2.
810.
810.2, alteration of single-family, two-family, non-conforming structures.
810 what?
Point two.
810.2.
Okay.
So I have chapter 48, section 6, 470.6, and 810.
810.2, subsection A.
Okay.
A and
Subsection
B,
B.
actually, they both come into play. So it's 810.2.
810.2. Nothing else?
No, I think that's it. And all other applicable bylaws. There you go. Okay, you're welcome.
Who's up?
It's out.
I'll do it.
Yeah, if she doesn't have them for the file, they should, yeah.
If you can.
Yeah, that'd be
add
great.
those with-
Vicky and Francis Glosser of 117 Rockland Road, requesting modified proceedings for a special permit issued on 2008 to allow the addition of a detached garage to single-family property located at 117 Rockland Road.
Do you want me to write that, Nicole?
Whose
Oh,
turn?
I'm sorry, yes.
Unless you want to volunteer?
I'm not volunteering, but if it's my turn, I'll.
I'm hoping the next one's harder.
So you've got that one down, huh?
Well, again, I've done a couple of very similar to this, so I've got
Yeah.
some of that down.
All right. Mike,
Next one
good
isn't,
evening.
next one's much easier.
much easier, I think.
This is
That's right.
a request
I'll do that one.
to modify an existing special permit that was granted back in 2008. Sarah, you were on the board at that point. Frank and Ed, you were not, but the Sloshes who purchased their home in '97 remodeled it in 2004 on the existing footprint of their house, which is, the board had previously found was pre-existing non-conforming. At the time, they wanted to add a garage, a detached garage, and they got shot down twice, once by conservation and once by the ZBA. We came back, or I went back to conservation, and they were granted relief from conservation. And we came back here to the zoning board for a special permit to build a detached garage. And at the time, the board's interpretation was that in order to grant any relief without a variance, that garage needed to be attached to their home. And the Slosses do not want to, really would prefer not to attach this to their home because it kind of puts the house really out of scale. It makes it a massive structure compared to the neighborhood. They feel that this is much better for the neighborhood, it's better for their purposes, and frankly, moving it back away from the house is good for the Conservation Commission, because they prefer it to be not attached to the main body of the house. The garage that was approved by this board was to be located 24, just under 25 feet from the layout of Lawson Road. And Sarah, you might remember, this is the lot that has the Lawson Duck Pond in the back, which has created the wetlands, number one. Number two, the portion of Lawson Road in front of their home is the original Lawson Parade route, so that the layout of the street at that point is just massively wide. So the garage that is approved is a little under 25 feet from the layout of Lawson Road, but more than 50 feet from the pavement on Lawson Road. And what they're requesting this board do is to allow them to amend their special permit, and the resulting setback from Lawson, from the layout, would be 22.69 feet. So it's going to be about 1.5 feet closer than what is currently approved.
And Mike, in the closest space to from the house is at 24.77?
That is correct. That is the front of their home, is currently 24. But the road kind of is the pavement bends a lot there, but the actual layout is straight. Because as you know, while looking at it face on from the house, the garage is going to appear to be further back from the street than the front of their home. Due to the layout of the street, which is curving at that point, it's technically a couple of feet closer, but the visual appearance is that it's going to be further away. One of the discussions we had when we briefly talked about this last time was what does the board need to do as far as a modification? And so the research that I've done is there's one main case on that. It's Huntington versus Zoning Board of Appeals of Hadley. And a board is allowed, pursuant to that case, to make an amendment, a substantial amendment, which makes a significant change to the original deliberate decision, only if notice is given. And in the file, we had given notice to 300 people within the Schlosser's home, and that proof of that is in the file. Other than that, you could grant an amendment without notice, but obviously nobody wants to do that. So we would respectfully request that this board look at this differently, which we think is a better situation, not only for the homeowners, for the neighborhood, and the Conservation Commission, but for the town. And in light of the recent Gale decision, allow this as an amendment, because I think the board might agree with me that the variance discussion that we've had in the past on this type of issue is by the board by way of Gale, and can be allowed by way of a special permit.
Now, a couple things. You're as far back as you can be to satisfy conservation.
We must maintain 20 feet in the rear.
Okay. And that's why you got that little knockoff of the corner on the
That is correct.
upper left.
Yeah.
Remind me, what's the situation with that 6-by-6 cut out on the bottom, on the
Well, it's going to
opposite
be a
corner?
one-car garage, and then the garage is going to be a little wider, but just from a architectural and visual point, rather than, again, a massive, not a massive appearing structure, that cutout is just for a visual effect and to improve the appearance visually.
And I'm sure you have Gail with you?
I do.
I was hoping so. Because it's a sort of a two-step question in Gail, isn't it? And I briefed it for your other case, but I could not put my hand on it this afternoon.
The two-part discussion would be under Chapter 48, Section 6, whether the board needs to make a determination of the requested relief, of whether the requested relief either has no change, extends, or increases an existing existing nonconformity, and then state whether or not that is the case, and then secondly, make a determination as to whether that extension or increase in the nonconformity is substantially detrimental to the neighborhood or not. So I think in this case, we technically this would be a increase in the non-conforming nature of the pre-existing non-conforming dwelling. And the only other thing I would just state is that, and Neil and I have discussed this a lot this summer, is that a detached garage fits the definition of a dwelling in Scituate as an accessory use, and it's so defined in our bylaw, so that the construction of a detached garage meets 48 Section 6 in that it is a pre-existing non-conforming structure, and this is an extension of that non-conforming. So
What is the nonconformity?
the nonconformity of the house, existing home, is the front of the house is 24.77 feet
Got it.
from Lawson Road.
Okay.
And again, it's about 50 feet from the actual pavement of the street. But
And so the garage, because it doesn't exist and is also going to be within 30 feet?
Correct.
That's the increase in the nonconformity?
correct, and even though it is a garage, it is a separate building. Our bylaw considers it part of the dwelling.
And what was, if I can jump ahead here, what was the reasoning or the concern that the board had about it being detached versus attached?
Well, the Scituate, and I don't want to speak for the board, but the Scituate board has, for as long as I've been around, dealt with this as a variance case and not a special permit case. But again, it is my opinion, and what I'd ask, and the board has recently adopted in at least one case, is that the discussion on changes to pre-existing non-conforming single-family dwellings is no longer a variance discussion. It is a Chapter 48, Section 6, and special permit discussion.
I guess the difficulty, that needs to be, for me, that needs to be resolved is, since it's not part of the dwelling and it's not an extension of the dwelling, whether that, again, whether the Gale applies.
Again, I think it does, Sarah, because our bylaw defines a dwelling as a residential structure and accessory uses, and our bylaw defines accessory use as either a subordinate use of a structure, tract of land, or a subordinate structure which is used customarily in connection with the principal structure or use of the land. And it is my feeling, and I'm not going to speak for Neil, but Neil and I have discussed this, and we agree on this interpretation of the bylaw that a garage is a customary accessory use in the town of Scituate of a single-family dwelling.
Well, it does say subordinate structure.
And the definition here of a private garage is a building or building appendage that is accessory to a main building, providing for the storage of automobiles in which no occupation or business for profit is carried on, and which is enclosed on all four sides. So the only thing I would suggest is if this is not attached, it could not in the future be used as part of a home business, perhaps.
Home business or a, could put an apartment in
Right,
it.
which traditionally might be the case if it was an attached garage.
Correct.
So it does come with some limitations on the part of the homeowner, but I've had that conversation with Neil as well, that it is our custom that detached garages are treated as part of the dwelling and afforded the protection of Chapter 40, Section 6.
I'm kind of
And-
surprised, yeah, that we didn't look at this as a variance, given the topography about that pond at the time. What was, I can't remember the discussion on that.
I applied on behalf of the owners for a 48-6, Section 6 finding, special permit, and the board disagreed with me at the time and said the only way we could do this is by way of a variance. And I said, well, and I argued in the alternative that due to the unique nature of this piece of property, it's the only piece of property in town with not only a man-made
Cement pond.
100-year-old cement pond, but also the extraordinarily large layout of the street in front of it, certainly, at least in my opinion, met the test for a variance, but I
We
did
said
not
that.
prevail.
Yeah, I remember it, but I don't remember the details, so,
I'm not sure of the date, but I think it may have been when I just came back on as the second alternate.
Yeah.
You may have been,
Brian was on the board.
Brian was the
Brian had a
big
lot
problem
of,
with this.
but he had a good deal of background on the pond and the history of the town, so I think that I remember the dilemma that we faced, and it wasn't one of not wishing to do it,
Right,
but feeling confidently that we couldn't do it,
correct.
And why couldn't we do it?
because it would have been a variance, and candidly, this threshold of granting a variance, particularly for this board, has traditionally been extremely high. Have we ever granted one? 2?
To Steve there. It's the only one I've ever granted on Little Rock Island.
I've
think so.
successfully got one in 35 years
Yeah.
in Scituate.
Which is a good thing. I mean, I think from the board standpoint and from the town standpoint. But this was one where we said, do we ease our standards a little bit?
Yeah,
But
I think it's pretty extraordinary, I mean, I'm gonna have a problem with, if, everybody starts coming in to try to go into that setback, with the same analysis. This is unique because it's, you've got that wetlands and you've got to maintain that 20-foot minimum. And, I mean, I think at the time, we all thought it would have looked better as a single, as a separate structure, but we were kind of constrained, so we made a time in, but, so. And I do think Gail makes some, I mean, I think that, for me, absolutely it increases the nonconformity. Is it substantially, let me take a look at Gail, Mike. I want to see that exact language on that second step.
It's that Westlaw print though, Sarah. It's tiny, tiny, tiny.
Gotta get it up there. Okay, here it is. It's down here. All right, so we must first identify the particular respect or respects in which the existing structure does not conform to the present bylaw.
Correct.
All right, so we can,
Fails to meet the front setback requirement.
Okay, is that the only non-conform, certainly got enough frontage.
We do, we have enough area. It's just the front of the house does not meet the front setback requirement.
Okay.
And part of the reason, if I remember correctly, was there a special permit for the reconstruction of the home as well?
No,
No, it was built on the existing
it
footprint.
was built on the existing footprint, and
So
so only,
No, the house was never redone. It was not a raise and reconstruct.
no, it was
No.
just, they added the
It's
second
renovated.
floor and renovated.
So- But the constraint comes from a wetlands that is growing, that is a cement pond.
Cement pond.
A cement pond with
That's right.
Italian tile lining.
Okay. All right, so the first question, we do the one, we identify the particular respects in which the existing structure does not conform to the present bylaw. Then we have to determine whether the proposed alteration or addition would intensify the existing nonconformities or result in additional ones. I mean, I think that's a critical issue right there. And I think the answer is yes.
Yes.
It does.
Agreed.
Okay, so we're by, yes, new ones. Okay, so then, if the answer is in the affirmative, a finding of no substantial detriment under the second sentence is required. So, there must be a finding that such change, extension, or alteration shall not be substantially more detrimental than the existing nonconforming structure or use to the neighborhood. I would agree that it does not under these circumstances. That it does not substantially, have no substantial detriment. What would you?
Well, so that's what we'd have to vote on, but
That's right.
is there
yeah.
anyone else in the audience who has
That's
a
it.
discussion about it, or?
All right, so that's, I mean, that, there are, have you asked all your questions, Frank?
Yes, I think I understand
Do you
the
have any
issue.
more questions?
All set?
Okay, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to be heard on this application? Mr. Bjorklund?
Uh-oh.
Sure. I was gonna say, I own the property at 122 Lawson Road, across the street from this,
Okay,
and we'll look directly across the street to it. It's rental property for me, but I am the owner, and I think that you should allow this to go forward. I don't think it's going to be detrimental at all. I think if they attach it, the structure would become larger than allowing them to do it detached, so I think this is a better situation than what they have, and it is what they want, it meets the bylaws. I have no problem with it.
okay. Any other questions or anything? Do we have a motion?
Now, clarify, Mike, we're just modifying the existing special permit, correct?
Correct.
Well, I guess with respect to that, is the garage in the exact same location as it was on the other, with the
No.
other one? Oh, you've moved it.
Well,
Slightly.
we have moved it because it's no longer attached.
The plan as proposed here is the modification.
Right. Do you have the old plan?
I think it is in the file. I think I
sure
brought
it's in the
that as
file.
well. It's in the,
I don't have the original.
you don't have,
The
the-
original decision.
yeah, I have the original decision too. The approved special permit for the attached garage, the garage was, I believe, 24.92 feet from the street.
Yeah, it's in, a copy's here. All right, so why are you moving it? I mean, it doesn't look like you've made any changes in terms of,
No,
oh, I know
this-
what you're doing. You had a little cutout on both corners.
In order to keep that 22.
Right.
There was a mistake on that plan, and
Oh,
the
no, that-
cutout was on the wrong side.
That's-
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, that's actually not the original plan. That's
That
the,
is the
That's still
original
detached.
special permit
No, this is.
application,
Which
see,
was
detached,
denied.
they
which
added
was
it.
denied.
and the one that was attached was a new plan that was,
But we just
we don't have a copy of
slapped
it
it
here.
on the side,
It was just stuck on the,
Oh, straight?
straight across.
Oh, you weren't angled at all? Oh, I didn't remember
It was
that.
straight across, and that's
Okay.
why,
So this is going back to what your original
that
request
was our
was?
original special permit request years ago, yeah.
Okay.
and Mike had
Is this
asked,
decision
we had asked Mike to have that updated with the correction for this application.
Correct, which you have, yes.
So, well, it's interesting, because you've maintained the same 20-foot, you maintained the 13 is 6.5. Oh, you added, I see what you're talking about. So you added a 6 feet. So it's,
This is what he proposed originally, which was denied.
right,
The one that was adopted under the special permit he's looking for modification from was a straight across attached,
across.
which we don't have with us.
I know, but I'm looking at this plan right now. The same plan. This is 13, 6.5. This is 13, 6.5, but it's 20, your corners are off, you know what I mean?
But
This was measured
When-
from this 6 foot in, 6 foot cuttage. You see what I'm saying? This is 24.92 from 6 foot from the far left-hand front corner.
I'm saying that the plan we have before us has 22.6, and
It's
it's
the
from the
same
very
plan.
corner.
It's the same plan that was previous, I think.
The difference, Sarah, in that
You've taken that 6 foot cutoff out.
the 6-foot cutoff was on the other side.
Right, see what I'm
Looking at it
talking
from the
about?
street, it was,
I see, but it says, this says 23 plus or minus, and
Yeah.
this is 22.69, which to me is 23 plus or minus.
Right.
Okay, so what's
Yeah.
the question then? It's the
Nothing.
same,
Yeah, it's the same. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. This plan and this same is essentially the same. The original, this is essentially the
Right.
same as the very original
except
plan.
it takes out these lines.
Exactly.
Right.
'Cause
But that's what they're asking us to
Right.
do, is to
Right,
go
right.
back and say,
Right.
can we have the detached garage, which we
Right.
couldn't have last time we heard this and granted an attached garage special permit.
Right.
I guess the question, the point I'm trying to make is this was a part of the original application, which we then made you move,
they slap it on the
rotate it,
side.
and slap it on the side. Yeah, so, okay. All right,
Let me give you that back.
sure. All right.
I would move that the board finds that the proposed modification of the special permit issued in 2008 to detach the garage is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, although it does intensify the nonconformity.
Creates a new non
Creates a new nonconformity.
And but you're moving to modify the...
I'm moving to
permit.
find that it does not, and therefore we grant the modification requested by the applicant.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right?
Aye.
Thank you very much, and I know the Schlosses are very appreciative of the board's time.
Do you have will you have a proposed
I will, yeah, I'll make-
decision?
Probably got it written.
No, I never make that presumption, you know that.
I know. Can you
Thank
get this
you.
back in?
It's easier to build those overtime hours, actually.
All right.
We better carry this decision around with us now.
You know, I meant to, and I looked for it this afternoon, and I couldn't find the darn thing.
I just brought it because I thought we were Steve.
Yeah, no, I knew we weren't doing Steve's because I already seen that. All right.
All right, our fourth application this evening is Walden Woods LLC, request to modify conditions 9 and 11 and discuss the conditions 16 and 23 and 33 of the comprehensive permit issued on January 16, 2003. Project is located off Denbeck Place, assessors map 45, Rockland City,
Okay, since this is our last application, I assume everybody's here for this? Very good. Could you please identify yourself for the record?
For the record, Anthony Esposito, civil engineer from 31 Hopkins Road, Plymouth, Mass. To get in, one of the reasons we came in front of you tonight is to submit a rather quick landscaping and lighting plan, which you see before you a little bit highlighted. To be brief about the landscaping, the intent of the project is to save as many trees along the border as we can. And at the present time, the proposal is to provide lawn areas between the units and along the green space. The area that was previously designated for a proposed septic system, the septic system has been removed from the project. My discussion with the applicant seems to indicate that he would like to have that as a green area for dog walking and stuff like that. Regarding the lighting, the applicant and I would like the opportunity to submit some kind of cut sheet or specification sheet to the board regarding a progress post lantern. It is Mystic block. Basically what it is an 18-inch top lighting with a 60-watt bulb, and it's about 6 feet high, and we plan on providing one of it for each unit somewhere between the entrance and the driveway to, give the occupants some lighting to get from their car to inside the home, and also to provide lighting for the development. So, lighting and landscaping plan, I was not privy to discussions during the permitting process of where the board wanted to go with landscaping. And most of the discussion for those meetings, I guess, Mr. Chen is here, he can correct me if I'm wrong, probably was directed more towards drainage more than anything else. So I've come in a little green on the landscaping, no pun intended. So this is our proposal for now, and the applicant, Mr. Paul Morocco, who represents Walden Woods LLC, is here to discuss it if the board so chooses. Now for something that I guess is easy to vote on, which is condition number 11. Condition number 11 basically describes the hours in which the contractor can work. He is requesting a change from 9 o'clock start on Saturday mornings to 8 o'clock. Halt the discussion based on comment on that. If you'd like, I'd continue on with the other requests, or would you rather discuss that one right now?
Well, I mean, we have to vote on each one separately anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we discuss them as we go? What is the reason for the, I mean, I guess I can guess, but.
Just the timing to get the infrastructure in as quickly as possible, so that he can concentrate on home building.
Okay. Ed?
No construction or activity on the premises before, but that would, if we modify this, that would include in the future, I mean, home building, et cetera. So you're asking for changing the Saturday hours from 9 to 5 to 8 to 5
Yes,
for the duration of the project.
yes.
Wait, the reason was just for the infrastructure, or not?
Well, it's part of the reason that he wants to move along quickly, because once he gets the infrastructure in, and he'll be building units as the units are getting either sold or under agreement.
Yeah, so the question is, does he want to have that time for just building the units as well? Or would he revert back to the 9 a.m. start time on Saturdays
We'd like to have it
for the whole
for
thing?
the whole project.
Okay, well, I guess for me, I know how I'd probably feel about it. It's the one day of the week I sleep in. But I think you got a lot of neighbors here. Obviously, they have some opinion about that, I assume.
We did receive one complaint about a truck starting early during the week. The Walden Woods LLC was informed by the town. Mr. Morocco dealt with it with the person that had done it. Apparently, he started a truck. and there was a problem with the truck, and Mr. Morocco dealt with it as soon as he heard about the complaint, which was relayed to me by the building inspector. And what I have told the building inspector is that as the calls come in, if he could, you know, contact me or Mr. Morocco right away so we can deal with it right away. So there was a complaint about an early start time already.
What was the earliest, what time was it started?
It was started at 7:30 in the morning, from what I understand.
On a Saturday?
That's what was
Saturday?
relayed to me.
On a
No,
Saturday.
this was during the week, I believe.
Well, it says you can do it 7 a.m.
7 to 6 on,
7
Yeah.
Monday through
Friday.
Friday. So it must have
Maybe
been
it was a half hour earlier than starting time, maybe the 7:30 is,
Must have been 6:30.
6:30. It's pretty darn early. Okay, any comments from the neighbors wish to be heard on the start time?
Rose Lockwood, 10 Stenbeck. There was another complaint for Saturday. I spoke to them probably about 8 o'clock. I spoke to Mr. Morocco directly about it. He told me the permit had already been changed. So we're also having issues with him not adhering to the time currently. He wasn't done until 7:30 last night. There was time last week where he wasn't done until
Okay.
8 o'clock. So
But to keep this on the focus, this is whether or not you, as the neighbors, object to a start time of 8 o'clock on Saturdays.
I object to my start time.
I object.
I object.
I object.
Good job.
We don't need Saturday morning, we don't need 18-wheelers barreling down the road.
Okay, yeah, I'm not trying to stop you, but, you know, we gotta keep it orderly, so if you want to make a comment, you raise your hand, we'll call on you. You can stand, identify yourself, and we'll get it on the record. Please.
My name's Glenn Prophet. I live at 7 Stenbeck Place. It's the second house in on the left. I agree with this lady here. They've been working past 7 p.m. I'm not sure what time they're allowed to work with heavy equipment, but I've noticed the past couple nights they have been working very late, and it is kind of noisy and aggravating, and we don't really need, I mean, if they're trying to get in at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, I don't think that's, I don't agree with that at all. We've been very courteous too, and it's a mess. There's a lot of dust. It's very noisy too.
You realize, I think the argument is going to be, the flip side of the argument is if they have shorter periods of time to work, then the project's going to last longer.
Right,
So
right.
it's a trade-off.
Right, but you said, you know, they want to start at 8 and end at 5. You know, maybe they could start at 8 and end at 4. I mean, what's the? I would, no, I don't agree with that either.
Depends on who the early bird is, right?
Let me ask the abutters if there would be a compromise. I mean, would you object to like an 8:30 start time on Saturday?
I would object.
How many, let me ask, just for a show of hands, how many would object to an 8:30 start time? Okay, does anybody have an okay with 8:30 start time?
How many days were not?
0. Oh, I didn't count them, I didn't count them.
Why don't you have them do it again? And
Yeah, oh, we can count. Well, I mean, then we have to count how many are here. You know, yeah, just say substantial number of hands. It seems like your neighbors are not too in favor of this. Yes?
Good evening, Paul Morocco, Weldon Woods. Nice to see you this evening. We've encountered a few inconveniences with the road, with the water break. We had to bring the water main in from Tilden down Stenbeck. We've been very accommodating, trying to get them in as quick as we can. Last evening was the sewer main. The sewer main was down 15 feet. We were in 3 feet of water. We did de-water, we did everything else, so therefore, that's going to happen. A project of this magnitude, we're doing the best we can. And typically having to start on 9 a.m. on Saturday typically is a waste for us. That's why we asked for 8. We approached Mr. Neil Duggan, who was in favor of it because that's not opposed by any other projects in town that are able to start at 7 a.m. We're the only ones, you know. I understand my neighbors are where they're at, and I understand their concerns, you know, but also, too, we're trying to get the infrastructure and get the project up and done. You know, it's been, you know, we're doing our best trying to make the place go, and I can't thank you enough for the permitting and everything, but we're really trying and do our due diligence to get it done and make a great community and, you know, raise the values for everybody around us. it's been pretty tough with the inundated, emails and frustrating things that go on in every day, let alone just trying to do the construction and getting the work done. So, I would ask the board that we could make it an 8 o'clock start on Saturdays, and typically we're out of there. We're not out of there 4 or 5, rather like 3 o'clock on Saturdays. It's a catch-up day for us, and typically it's just for us to get the infrastructure. We've got already 1,000 feet of sewer in, we already have 1,000 feet of water in. We've only been there less than 4 weeks. So it isn't something that, we're going to keep it ongoing. The detention basins are 50% complete, drainage is 50% complete, so, we've really worked very hard to making sure that we can stabilize everybody's properties around detention basins, damming, and all that. So it's just, that's where we're at.
Do you have a construction timeline schedule?
Typically, I think, right now, we hope to have road paved by the end of October. That's our target date. And so, I'm trying to get Stenbeck Place all in order. We just have to do laterals to the homes. We're gonna get all brand new water lines. And basically, we're trying to get it paved. I'd like to get it binded by at least in about 3 weeks.
With respect to the time, so you assume you do have some sort of a construction schedule then?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and with respect to that construction schedule, are you on schedule, ahead of schedule, or behind schedule?
Right now, a little behind only because we've hit the water, the incredible amount of water on the site that we've been dewatering by installing the new sewer mains, and therefore, which helps alleviate all of the water in the detention basins that we're doing. Other than the 3.5 inches of rain we all received last Friday evening, we did our best, and we did take care of that in the meantime, which has been, taken care of, and we're working on it every day. So therefore, being able to do it, the structures are on site, we're working on the detention ponds and everything. So, right now, we're a little bit behind, and we're trying to catch up and to make it work.
Okay. Yes.
We have competing priorities here. He's got a project he wants to get done. I understand that. We have quality of life to maintain, and for one day to not have them come in at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. The other point to that is he's not staying till 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturdays. He was out of there at noon last Saturday, so I don't know if he's making the best use of the time he has. So I don't see why we have to accommodate that when the other end is not using that time.
Okay. Well, maybe it makes sense to vote on,
Fine with me. Ready, Ed? Any questions?
Just a couple of
Sure.
quick questions. If you were to have a schedule for macadam, for paving material, what time can the plant deliver on site on a Saturday?
We wouldn't be paving on
No,
Saturday.
but if you were,
If we were able to,
what time do they deliver on Saturday, and do they deliver at what time?
yes. I can get mixed at 7:30 in the morning.
Okay. Even on a Saturday?
Yes, sir.
That having been said, I was on the board when we went through this for ad infinitum, and there was a lot of concern because of the small nature of the site and the density that was being built, and the neighbors not just being inconvenienced, but their life being turned upside down for a while.
Agreed. I agree with you.
And we were really careful about talking about whether or not we could have egress on Tilden Road, and could it be in both directions. And you'll recall, we worked very hard to try to come up with a plan that met some of the applicants' needs and some of the neighbors' needs.
Agreed.
And I was kind of hoping you would say that macadam couldn't be there until 9, and I'd say, well, why do we need to be early? But I'm inclined to, I recognize construction, I recognize the need for getting it done, but as you say, Saturdays are a catch-up day, and I think the hours we gave were, you got full 8 hours to work, so I'm not concerned there. Having said that, I want to say one other thing, this is more directed to the neighbors. You never know what's going to happen once you open up a hole in the ground, and this is the time that they're going to be surprised by a lot. So if there is a situation where there's an open hole, and they need to de-water, and they're working past 7 o'clock, I'm not suggesting this is what happened, but they're working past 7 o'clock, or...
Should be 6 o'clock on the
Well, 6
permit.
o'clock, but they have, from a safety standpoint and other things, it's important to try to be understanding that way. If there were a water main break on your street and the DPW came in and opened up the street at 2 in the morning, you'd be thrilled as long as you were going to have a shower in the morning when you woke up. So the neighbors being aware of extraordinary circumstances is important, but the applicant being aware of the neighbors' quiet enjoyment of their property is also important.
If I may also, there's going to be more inconvenience on Stenbeck Place with the 7 laterals we have to tap into the main, so therefore, we have no idea what we're going to run into. We bypass the existing transite main, we replace it with ductile iron, and there is going to be a little bit of inconvenience, and there could be some late working, so that is going to happen. Unfortunately, we're trying, but, you know, we do our best. We dig the laterals, we got to tap it, we got to, you know, we also have to chlorinate the line. You know, those are things that you try to explain it, but unless it's exactly what needs to be heard, it's never heard, unfortunately.
I think what Mr. Morocco is trying to explain is that the work on Stenbeck Place involves existing homes. So when a service has to be transferred from one pipe to another, that should be done right away, regardless of the time, as if you can see. You know, when there's a water main break, it's going to have to be dealt with right then and there. And once we get into the property and we clear out of the Stenbeck Place area, then it's just a question of putting in some dry mains to get ready for the development of homes. But as far as Stenbeck Place is concerned, and we'll be talking a little bit more about Stenbeck Place in a while on another issue, but that it could be the reason that work will go past 7 o'clock. And
Has gone past 7 o'clock.
Has gone past
And
7
But it's
may,
6
in an
o'clock.
extraordinary,
It's
it
6
may, in an
o'clock.
extraordinary situation, go past 6 in the future.
It's getting darker a lot earlier now, too, so that's going to weigh in on
The
that.
hours are what they are.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help the applicant to,
If I may, I want to
Understood.
withdraw my request for changing the work hours on Saturday.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, that makes
Thank
it
you.
easier.
Thank you.
The second condition is condition number 9, which is basically substituting mass housing for the Scituate Housing Authority as far as the monitoring agent. Is that voted on already?
I
thought we did,
that
yeah.
before.
Okay, all right, so I withdraw that one.
9.
All right,
Number 9.
okay.
That was done, I think, January 17th meeting.
There's one other request that I just received that did not go into the opening letter. Apparently, Mr. Morocco has been approached by some of the neighbors on Stenbeck about removing the proposed sidewalk from Stenbeck on the project. I explained to Mr. Morocco that the board in the past was wanted to provide this shows it right here. Sidewalk proposed along Stenbeck Place. It was on the original comprehensive permit. When the project was switched from septic to sewer, the board requested that we provide a walking path from Tilden Road to Stenbeck in order for, you know, a quicker walking trip to the harbor. Mr. Morocco has informed me that some of the neighbors on Stenbeck Place have requested that the sidewalk, proposed sidewalk on the south side of Stenbeck not be constructed. And I bring that to the board for their discussion.
Are they here?
first.
Yes, they are.
The people who don't want it? Okay.
If you had to explain your situation to ask us to change a condition, I think they should have to explain their position
Yes.
to have us
Okay.
change a condition.
Well, first I'll hear from the board what their, your
I'd like to
comments
hear,
on it?
I'd like to hear why.
Yeah, okay.
And
Because
then-
I'll tell you something, you're going to have to do some really fancy dancing on this one, because I see this as a very serious safety issue.
That's sidewalk over there, by the way, too.
No, we're talking about
No, but that's sidewalk at the top.
the sidewalk at the top. What are you talking
That's
about, this? No, I don't think that's the one they want.
No, but that's sidewalk as well. You've got highlighted on all your sidewalks.
Oh, yeah, I didn't hide this.
But,
okay.
so we're
Right.
talking about
You're talking about a
Abruptly
sidewalk
stopping it
that
in
goes
one
all the
spot.
way through.
Yeah.
Remind us, how many bedrooms in in this development altogether?
How many bedrooms?
Yes,
56.
okay.
They are two-unit condos, so there's 56.
Okay. I think, you know, and I thought it was a mass highway requirement when you're building a new road to,
It's a private way.
it's a private way, that's why it doesn't have to do, okay.
Correct.
Yeah, we're talking about just the sidewalk on Stenbeck Place itself,
Right,
not the
and-
development.
And I drove there. I drove there recently, since we got this, I drove down there when, recently, and I just see that as a very, you know, narrow road, and I think it's a public safety issue for me. But, and that's why I think that the board wanted the sidewalks to begin with, to be able to have people from the other side of Tilden Road that might want to cut through, the residents of the development to cut through to go down in the harbor. Presumably, you're going to have kids. I don't want to see some kid get hit by a car because there's no sidewalk. That's the way I feel about it. And that's, and having heard that, I'm glad to hear what the neighbors say. Frank, do you have any?
Well, yeah, I'd like to hear the reason too, and I'm also, we're just having a discussion, right? Because I think we'd have to give notice to the public if we're going to change this plan.
Only if it's, only if they're minor. I think if we determine that they are insignificant changes,
Taking out
we
a
don't.
sidewalk?
Yeah.
Okay. well,
No, I mean, if we took it out, okay?
Right.
I think if we were, personally, I think if we were compelled to take it out, then we may have to think differently about having notice. I personally am not compelled to take it out, to eliminate
If I
it,
may,
yes.
We originally went in, we had the road staked, and it was a significant change from what the road is versus people's front yards. And that was the first initial shock, in the orange stakes. Then we approached heading without back at Hazel on the left-hand side going down. There are three neighbors that we approached and said that the hedges have to be moved, fencing has to be moved, there's a guide on the other side, and hedges leading out to the front home. So as soon as you run Hazel, you take a left. Coming from the harbor, you take a left on Stenbeck.
Right,
On the left-hand side,
yes,
all of those plantings and those fences will have to be removed and re-erected by the homeowner. And therefore, also the telephone poles that are on there need to be moved back 7 feet from the existing line, which is in back of the sidewalk by 2 feet. So
and who pays for the telephone poles to be moved?
you're looking at them. So
All right.
I pay for everything, but
Okay,
anyway, the neighbors were, concerned, and they asked, is there anything we can do? And, we approached Neil Duggan, and he said, well, put it on the agenda and go before the board and see what the board's opinion could be.
okay. I guess the next question is, and don't kill me, anybody, what about moving it to the other side of the street? Is it still going to have the same problems?
Excuse me, I'm sorry?
What about moving it to the north, the sidewalk to the north side of the street?
You might just have different neighbors at the next
Just
meeting.
different neighbors, okay. Okay. So if I am understanding, you've got problems with the first house on the left on Stenbeck,
The first two,
the first two, and you're saying that landscaping and fences have to be moved,
correct, and they're replaced at the owner's expense.
okay?
We're
And,
only-
well,
Because they're not on their property.
Correct.
because they're not, because they're currently not on their, so they're encroaching on town property.
Yes, ma'am.
When you described Stenbeck as being a narrow street, it's because it's not following the layout of the street under its current condition. It's
Yeah.
too narrow, and it's actually off the layout.
Yeah,
Correct.
So,
If you were to view the new layout, the new layout shows it on the right side, where it's extremely much wider than the narrow 15, 18-foot roadway that it is now.
yeah, I'm still, and I understand the problem, but it's, the problem is you're telling me, is that homeowners' plantings and fencing are on town property.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
and
No.
They're on Walden Woods property.
Okay, well, no, so who owns Stenbeck Place? You said it's a private road? It's owned by the, everybody,
Private
right?
way, it's owned by the town.
So it's not a public road, so it's
Right.
just the butters onto the center of the roadway.
Yeah,
But the roadway is the roadway, and it has to be open and for
Right.
transit by anyone on the roadway.
Subject to the rights to pass and repass.
Right.
right.
And the, part of the,
Yeah, I understand that.
part of the challenge, or part of the history that might make sense here is the old property, the second one in on the right, was Mrs. Stenbeck's property, and it owned the two lots next to it. So basically, the whole right side of the street was one house prior to the subdivision of those two lots. And so therefore, the street kind of went in front of a person's house, and then the houses across the street were laid out and built, and then the other two were added on the side. But it still was just a dead-end country lane that, I don't even think it had a cul-de-sac at the end of it
No, it did not.
forever.
It just
Yeah.
did end, it didn't even have a tomahawk or a T.
And I guess I probably can disclose, my father acquired the Stenbeck house and I think subdivided those two lots, so I have some familiarity with the lot, with the street.
Did you share a little guilt over it?
And I don't share any guilt, I think he did a nice job.
Okay, all right, anything else from the board on the issue? Or do we go right to the, let's go right to the neighbors then? Anybody want to be heard on this issue? Okay,
I live on the southern side.
Can you state your name and address?
My name is Glenn Prophet, 7 Stenbeck Place. There's probably I don't know how long it is, but it's a beautiful hedge that's been there for 50 years, and it would be a shame to take that out. It offers great privacy to our home and the neighbors, and
where on the map can you show us where you're talking about?
second lot.
Second one up.
And where's this hedge?
The hedge is basically right where the sidewalk is.
Right where the sidewalk is? Oh, so it's the whole thing's going to have to be
Correct.
Ripped
kicked
out.
down?
And then,
Right.
yeah, we just take out half the front yard.
Yeah.
I mean, it would just destroy the whole aesthetic of the street. It's been a great little dead-end road for as long as I can remember, and now it's like a super highway.
Yeah.
And it would be a shame just to destroy it even more, you know? So, that's my thoughts on it.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Pam Molinari, 11 Stenbeck Place.
Excellent.
So
And
I
which-
am
and
right
which-
next
which-
to,
The one underneath the S.
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So for me, it will, I'm concerned about, well, first of all, I have plantains in my hedge, but parking too, because I see a lot of the roads like Otis say, when they have the sidewalk, say you have company or somebody comes, you can't, there's nowhere to park. I mean, the roads just aren't big enough, and that becomes a hazard too, when you have cars parked next to a sidewalk, kind of in the middle of a road, basically. You know, so that to me seems like a safety issue too. That there's just gonna be no way.
I don't think Scituate has parking, on-street parking supposedly. Isn't there,
Everyone knows.
No, we do.
Knows that.
we had this discussion recently. I thought there was like no,
Yeah, it's a private way.
it's a private way again, okay, so
But
that's the
also
issue.
anywhere within a mile of the beach areas, but not the rest of the town.
Yeah,
But you go up, if you take a ride around the neighborhoods that have the sidewalks, you see safety hazards with these cars parked next to sidewalks. So it's, to me, it's, you know, it's difficult. I mean, it's-
I'm not saying it's not difficult. I just not willing to put kids in the middle of the street where cars are driving down, personally. And I'm looking at one of them there. And I know, I think you wouldn't trade him for that hedge any day of the week. So, and I really, really see this, you know, it's not just your little guy, it's, you know, presumably other kids in there.
This
And
whole neighborhood up.
yeah, the whole
up the
neighborhood.
street.
And, you know, it's not an easy thing, you know? It's not an easy thing to ask you to have your yards disrupted and your hedges that have been there disrupted. But I think sidewalks overall are really good for a neighborhood for so many reasons. Sir, did you have something?
Yeah, good evening. My name's Todd Gardner, 62 Tilden Road, and I don't want to derail from what's going on with Steinbeck, but Sarah, I appreciate your safety comments of the sidewalks, or lack thereof. for about 8 houses completing the sidewalk on Tilden Road. You know, the subdivision's bringing in 56 bedrooms, which is going to increase traffic exponentially on that road.
Absolutely, I mean, I agree. So are you asking, I think there is a sidewalk that finishes from Tilden up to this development,
Not to the development, no.
right? I
It's
thought
making
we talked about it was going
No,
to,
on Tilden.
oh, on Tilden. Oh, yeah, and I wish we had some control over that, that's for sure.
Where is the appropriate forum for me to address that concern?
I think probably the selectmen, if you want, I mean, I would.
DPW.
DPW, talk about sidewalks,
About installing sidewalks?
about installing
Not on this
sidewalks.
property, but elsewhere.
Oh, yeah, that would be probably DPW.
Engineering.
Yeah, I would start with DPW and know the
Okay, thank you.
I, again, anecdotal, but my father was a developer in town. He built Boris Farm back in 1959. The original layout had sidewalks. 3 years after it was built, the sidewalks hadn't been put in yet, and the town insisted the sidewalks be put in. If you're familiar with Boris Farm, it is basically one big U, and no one drives in there that doesn't live in there. The kids don't play on it. We don't use the sidewalk. They use the middle of the street. They always have. There was, for 40 years, no sidewalk on Hadley Road, no sidewalk on Gannett Road, no sidewalk on, well, there was about 150 feet of sidewalk on Country Way. You couldn't get anywhere. These sidewalks went nowhere, but the town insisted they go in. I think that that has changed now to reflect the whole town, and we are taking people's quote-unquote front yards all over town to put in sidewalks. And the Tilden Road is another example of it. It needs a little bit, doesn't need a lot of it because it's got a lot of sidewalk there, but it does need more. We just finished doing Stockbridge Road from Greenfield all the way to First Parish, taking up, I mean, I thought the cemetery wall was going to fall in the way they got right up to the cemetery wall. They couldn't move the cemetery, but they had to get right to the wall. So as much as I am sympathetic with the neighbors and the hedges and other things, I think if we don't do it now, they'll make us do it later. And it might be at someone else's expense like ours. I'm sorry. You brought this on yourself. I'd rather do it while it's on your nickel.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is, I live on a private road, and the whole thing with whether the town is going to plow it or not plow it, if we want to have it accepted as a public street, the whole thing had to be engineered, and we were told that we would have to pay for sidewalks. And that's, you know, a little 12, and we end in at a cul-de-sac, and there's just 12 houses on it. And I'll tell you who is looking, the town is looking to pay for that sidewalk is myself and our neighbors. And it's going to be about, if we do all that, it's like $8,000 a house.
I don't buy that.
So, you know, but that's the thing, if you want to ever, if Stenbeck is ever going to be made into a public way, and there's a lot of advantages to having public houses, you know, you will have to, they're going to do it later, and you're going to have to pay for it out of your own pockets, and it's not cheap, as Mr. Morocco knows. So, sir.
Louis Chen, 42 Tilden Road. Since we're talking safety and the landscaping plan, we should keep that in mind. I see some bends in that road, and it's going to be difficult to keep cars on their side of the road, especially if they come up through there at any kind of speed.
Okay, I'm not sure,
Sorry. I have a question too. Are there any speed bumps proposed for the throughway to slow down the traffic?
Because that bend in the road is a 90-degree bend there, and people can come through there at a pretty good clip.
yeah, I don't know,
I think during the application, we had we had traffic studies and other things done, and there
We
was.
had traffic studies done at the end of Tilden.
No, I understand,
and at the end of
but we had,
But nothing, no traffic studies within the lot itself.
but we had, the engineering of the space was defended before the board at that time.
They never talked about safety within the plot.
And
you
neither
know that
did,
as well as I.
and neither did the applicants, and neither did the abutters or anyone else.
We
in
raise
it.
that all the time, as
The-
well as the water that poor Mr. Morocco, and I feel sorry for him, but we told you that water was there, and you didn't listen to
Okay,
it.
all right,
Mr.
you know
Chairman,
what?
sorry.
Yeah.
I was
let's-
on the, excuse me.
Okay.
I was on the board. I am very familiar with it. I'm suggesting simply that this is out of the four corners of what is before us tonight. It's interesting to note, and I'm sure if as the property is constructed, if there is a concern about traffic, rules and regulations will come, our board in town, who handles rules and regulations, will come in and make it a one-way, put in speed bumps, do whatever is appropriate to keep it safe. I don't think it's within our prerogative today to open up a discussion about the roadway layout that has been approved.
Or speed bumps, it's just not before us. Having heard the discussion about the sidewalks, do you want us to make the vote on that?
Yes, I believe we should put it on record that we.
Okay.
How did this come up, though? I mean, that,
The neighbors requested that the applicant propose it.
is it on the?
It is on.
It is on the-
it's-
yeah, it's
It's
on
underneath.
It is,
the
okay, I
letter.
didn't notice that, all
It
right.
is, it is.
Pursuant to the letter from Anthony Esposito, the request by abutters to not install sidewalks along Stenbeck Place, I would move that the board not allow this change and enforce that the sidewalks be built as proposed.
Second.
All in favor? Or any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You keeping your sidewalks. I'm sorry about your hedges. Anything else?
Well, I think,
So there's the one, there's this
there was
one.
one that was not in the letter.
The,
You really want to bring it up?
Well, I'm not going to ask you to vote on it tonight.
Okay.
If you don't want to hear our side this week, we may, with the ADS to RCP.
did Mr. Morocco see the response from the town?
I gave it to him just before the meeting.
Okay. Let me just talk to the, so the abutters here understand what's going on. I guess there was a request to change a design specification to use polyethylene pipes instead of reinforced concrete drainage pipe, and the town subdivision control, and the DPW came back stating that the town subdivision control bylaw requires the use of concrete pipe for drainage. So,
We're designated. Correct.
We're
We asked that
designated.
ADS would be in lieu of that because it'd always be private. It has been private, will always be private. So therefore, we did it in all the main roads. It's done on Tilden and it's done on Stenbeck. So therefore, it was just asked to be done inside of the project itself,
okay.
which was also, it is by the town's inspectional engineer, Amory Engineering. He was in favor, so that's the reason why we brought it up.
He was going to email the board on that tonight. I don't know if he has or not.
I
I'd
would
like to put one benefit to the town on record regarding that. There is a bond requirement in the comprehensive permit. The original permit called for I believe it was $250,000 for the drainage design. The bond or surety, which the town would pull, let's say Mr. Morocco were to remove himself for the project and the project lays barren, and the town would have to complete the drainage. Subsequent to the $250,000, the previous applicant, through litigation, got that reduced to $150,000. So we're not kidding anybody when we're trying to save costs here by going from reinforced concrete to ADS plastic pipe. But if the town were to have to take over the construction of the drainage for the benefit of the residents, the reduced bond money through litigation would be more adequate to cover the cost of the drainage on site if it were ADS than it would for RCP. That's the one benefit I can see from the town's perspective, that bond money would be able to cover more of the costs. If this were to happen 3 or 4 years down the road, Mr. Morocco, I don't think is going anywhere. He is completing a 40B development in Rockland as we speak. He's got maybe one building left to build
Out of 60.
out of 60.
You got nothing
so-
better to do than take care of it here.
So-
You must have some concrete pipe left over.
Fortunately,
I just wanna give you the
I do
one
appreciate
benefit.
your concern for the town, I absolutely do.
Yeah.
But I have to also suggest that as much as I keep on making a case that I'm not an attorney, I'm also not an engineer. And when the town's engineer says to us, no, it should be this, we need some compelling evidence otherwise, and we would also probably ask that the town's engineer come before us to defend their position. I just don't think you want us to make a decision on this one way or the other tonight.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
I
well,
don't-
no, I
I
was going to
certainly don't
defer
feel
it to another discussion. I was going to plan on me. I have not discussed this with Mr. Smith. I left a voicemail message for Kevin Cafferty. I was unaware that he was on vacation. I did discuss it with Pat Brennan. He had no issues with it. I'm not sure Mr. Smith understands that we're only talking about inside the development himself. He may not. I don't know.
And to clarify for the audience, this was not something that was in your request for this.
No, this
I mean,
was a
this has
request the
come up.
applicant thought I would like me to bring up, so I'm just bringing it up.
So you're getting good feedback from us, but
Right.
we're,
But I'm
Yeah,
not
I don't-
asking
I
you to
don't feel
vote
like
on
I
it.
have
So
any
right now, we're
information
officially
on that.
still on reinforced concrete pipe.
Okay, that sounds good.
I mean, if I may add one more question. Unfortunately, this evening, I didn't bring the bonds with me. There are 2 bonds to be signed by the board.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so is there any way, if I drop them off to Nicole tomorrow, that you could expedite those for us?
You can, if you want, you can drop off at my office, and I'll drop them off with Nicole.
That'd be perfect.
Can you drop them off in the morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I got
What do they need?
got plans in the afternoon.
Is it just you that they need to, John?
Friday
Just you
afternoon,
that
I
need
guess.
to sign?
Oh, I assume, just I need to sign them as the chair, probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be
I'll
around.
I'll give you my card, sir. I'm right in Greenbush.
I got plenty of
I'll be by 11.
Okay.
With them. Okay. All right, so I guess to recap, you're going to stay on at the 9 o'clock a.m. You're going to stay with the sidewalks, and did we vote on mass housing?
That
Oh,
was
no, we
done
said
in-
we already
that was
did it.
done
We
in
already did it. So,
I apologize to the board for that.
okay.
Thank you.
2 other issues. One, parking of construction vehicles, can that be on the site?
You know what?
That's actually an issue for Neil Duggan.
That's-
Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to contact the, if you have problems with how the construction process is going, if you contact the building department, they're the enforcement, they know what the plans say that they're supposed to do and not do. I think you basically have a very good neighbor here that wants to do a nice job up there, and you must have a million subcontractors that sometimes have to be reminded of what the rules are. And so I think they'll learn very quickly, you want to be good neighbors too, and everybody wants to get it done as quickly as possible. So I think that there may be some, no pun intended, bumps in the road. But I think it should go through. And when do you think to have the first occupancy permits? Is there, again, an anticipated time?
Well, right now with the sidewalks, she's trying to get hold of Verizon to move those poles back. Those
Yeah.
poles could take about 6 months.
Have you seen 139 in Marshfield? Those poles are still in the middle of the street.
I have a pole on another project in the middle of a footprint of a new building. Still isn't moved.
Okay. Are we all done with this one then? I think so. Thank you all for coming.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.